week marks the second anniversary of the Hughes report into the sodium valproate and pelvic mesh scandals. Mary and other mothers like her needed redress and support for their children years ago, and a government response to the Hughes report is now long overdue. What assessment has she made of an impact on the women and their children left in limbo by this government's failure to respond to the Patient Safety Commissioner's report of February 2024?
Minister.
Well, clearly, as we have discussed in this House, and many people have led the campaign on part of this women, we of course are clear on the impact on those women, as the government will continue to review the recommendations of that report and report back in due course.
Chair of the Women's Inequalities, Sarah Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number 5.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our Pathways to Work guarantee will tackle the unnecessary barriers keeping disabled people out of work. Connect to Work employment support will be nationwide by April. Last week we expanded Work Well, and regular meetings of the lead ministers on disability make sure of cross-government working.
Sarah Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Nearly half of disabled people in the UK say they feel it's harder to get a job or keep a job. It's even worse for those with learning disabilities. Just 6% find it into the workplace. Now, the problem isn't just employer discrimination, it's also the UK's infrastructure. 3 in 4 trains are not step-free. Ones like mine in Leagrave are completely out of bounds for people who are physically disabled. What is the Minister doing to ensure that cross-departmental working meets the needs of disabled people to access public spaces and the workforce?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is absolutely right. The disability employment gap is too big. Every department has a lead minister on disability. I chair our regular meetings. My honourable friend, the member for Wakefield and Rothwell, champions disabled people at the Department for Transport, and the Rail Accessibility Roadmap sets out planned improvements for disabled people ahead of the establishment of Great British Railways.
Vicky Slade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituent Becky relies on access to work, but her application was denied, and her ICE application for a complaint has now taken 8 months just to receive an acknowledgement. We can't progress an ombudsman claim until they deal with it. So what is this department doing to arrange for complaints to be dealt with more quickly so people can get back into work?
Well, I'd be grateful if the honourable lady would just let me have a note of that particular hold-up with complaints. I mean, there are delays with access to work, reflecting the big surge in demand for access to work, and that's why we've proposed reform. We've consulted on reform, and we'll come back with our proposals now quite soon.
We now go over to Jim Shaw.
Mr. Speaker, question number 6.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Through our 10-year health plan's big shifts, we'll ensure that more tests and care is delivered in the community, improving working between services, using greater use of technology to support women managing long-term conditions, and crucially learning from the work led by the pioneering women's health hubs.
Jim Shannon.
And I thank the Minister very much for that. Arthritis and other musculoskeletal conditions are the single biggest cause of pain and disability in the UK. It's one of the most common reasons for workplace absences. It affects women and girls, and particularly 60% of those with arthritis in the UK are women, which accounts for some 6 million women across the United Kingdom. So can I ask the Minister, can the Minister work to ensure that MSK is included in the next phase of modern services frameworks so that health of women and girls is made a priority? Thank you.
I thank him for that question. He's absolutely right. The osteoporosis does disproportionately affect women, and it's a crucial part of, as he said, absence from the workforce. Myself and Baroness Merrin, who leads on this work, met with Charlie Mayfield as part of his looking at getting more women back into the workforce, and I absolutely make sure that women's health and these sorts of long-term conditions are part of that. I can't commit to the MSK strategy, but we're absolutely committed to involving this in renewing the women's health strategy.
Patrick Hurley.
Number 7, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And with permission, I will answer questions 7, 8 and 10 together. Tackling child poverty is a moral mission for this government, and your background should not determine what you go on to achieve in life. I am proud that we've now published our historic child poverty strategy that will deliver the largest reduction in child poverty within a single parliament, scrapping the 2-child limit, expanding free school meals and backing families.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier this week, I visited the Bishop David Shepherd School in my constituency, and I saw firsthand the difference that breakfast clubs are making to children from disadvantaged backgrounds. So can the Minister explain how the Government's commitment to expanding breakfast clubs will help tackle child poverty and reduce inequalities across the country?
I'm grateful to my honourable friend. He's a real champion for local families, and I'd be grateful if he would extend my thanks to all the staff team at the Bishop David Shepherd Primary School for the work that they are doing. Breakfast clubs make a huge difference to parents, to children, expanding learning and giving our children a great start to the day. And this Labour government will deliver a national rollout of breakfast clubs across our country.
Bobby Shanker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In Arboretum, in my constituency, half of the children are growing up in poverty. That means hungry mornings, cold homes and kids who are 4 times more likely to face mental health problems by the time they're 11. What urgent action is this government taking across government to tackle child poverty that eliminates health inequalities so that all children can grow up in a warm and a stable society? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Alongside the expansion of new free breakfast clubs, we massively expanding free school meals, expanding extra childcare for families, and that runs alongside our work in rolling out Best Start family hubs in every area, building on the proud Labour legacy of Sure Start to support families early when their children are young.
Irene Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my constituency of North Ayrshire and Arran, healthy life expectancy is currently 52.5 years for women and 52.6 years for men. This is shockingly the lowest in Scotland and shows clear evidence of increasing health inequalities compared to other parts of Scotland. Years ago, the Glasgow effect was often cited when looking at life expectancy and at healthy life expectancy, but in this case I fear we now also have a North Ayrshire effect. Does the Minister agree with me that this is no way to start your life and that Scottish Government must do more to address these inequalities, given that they have had the biggest financial settlement in the history of devolution?
Mr. Speaker, those are truly shocking statistics that my honourable friend shares. I know that she, Anna Sawa and all Scottish Labour colleagues are working to kick out the SNP in May and show them how we can make the NHS fit for the future, running alongside our child poverty strategy, Mr. Speaker, that will lift thousands of children in Scotland out of poverty. That is the difference a Labour government here in Westminster is making in Scotland.
The best way out of poverty is through supporting people into work and creating jobs. What assessment has the Minister made with her colleagues on the impact of the crippling national insurance hike her government has had on families with children living in poverty?
Mr. Speaker, our child poverty strategy will deliver the biggest reduction in child poverty in any parliament ever. That is the difference a Labour government is making, and she will surely recognise that the majority of children who are in poverty are in working families, people doing the right thing, working hard, and we are determined to support them.
We know that poor housing is a serious contributor to children living in poverty, and I've recently heard concerns about social housing providers in my constituency failing to carry out vital repairs to tackle damp and mould, with some even choosing to sell off homes rather than bring them up to the standards under Awab's law because it's too expensive. So what is the government doing across government with its Equalities Department and MHCLG to stop social housing providers from selling off homes and to ensure that every child has access to safe, warm, dry, affordable social housing?
I'm grateful to the Honourable Lady for raising that point. Issues around housing were a key feature of the work that we did through the Child Poverty Task Force. It's also work that colleagues right across government are taking up. I'm concerned to hear as to the cases that she raises. If she would like a minister to look into those and provide a response, if she shares some details, I'll make sure that happens.
Of course, there is poverty of aspiration, which of course contributes to inequalities, and there are over 100,000 children in looked after care in this country, as you will know, secure homes, children's homes and foster care. Every single one of those children has a skill, an ability, something to contribute to society. So can I ask her to, with her other hat on as Secretary of State for Education, to look at scholarships for looked after children, for those children to develop those skills?
The Honourable Gentleman raises an important area that has been a big focus of the work of the Department for Education around children's social care reform, supporting more families around kinship arrangements, expanding fostering and making sure we're supporting children earlier on to stop that crisis escalation. I'd be happy to discuss further any other ideas that he has.
Douglas McAllister.
Number one, please, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, next week is Race Equality Week, and this week's theme is Change Needs Us All. The Government's Race Equality Engagement Group, chaired by Baroness Lawrence, is ensuring that we are hearing directly from those most affected by race inequality. And Mr. Speaker, yesterday we marked Holocaust Memorial Day, and across this House we remember the 6 million Jewish people murdered by the Nazis. We redouble our efforts to combat prejudice, hatred and anti-Semitism in all its forms.
Douglas McAllister.
The gender pay gap for full-time employees in Scotland. The gender pay gap for full-time employees in Scotland widened from 2% in 2024 to 3.5% in 2025. It's utterly unacceptable that under the SNP watch, women in Scotland are earning less for the same hours. What can our UK government do to improve matters for women across our country?
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is right. We do have to narrow that gap, and we're ensuring that large employers, including in the Scottish private sector, will publish a plan to how they will address the gender pay gap. But of course, I'm proud that along with him, this Labour government is delivering the biggest upgrade in workers' rights in a generation.
Nurses up and down the country, like the Darlington nurses and Jennifer Mellay, are being hounded and harassed by the NHS simply for recognising that biological sex is real. I'm grateful that the Secretary of State had previously agreed to meet with Jennifer, and I hope she still will, but she takes up the cause of working class women. These are working class women, and they are being abused by people in positions of power. So will she go further? Will she hold accountable people in the NHS, the Nursing and Midwifery Council and in the unions who have harassed and victimised these hard-working nurses?
Mr. Speaker, I look forward to meeting with Jennifer soon to discuss her experiences and what more we can do to make sure that women in the NHS are safe at work. I'm determined to ensure that the rights, voices and spaces of women who both work in the NHS and are patients in the NHS are protected.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the case of Gorton and Denton, we heard this week that the Muslim vote has decided to endorse the Green Party. This is overt sectarianism in our midst, and we know where we have sectarian politics, conflict and strife follows. Even one of their candidates at the last election was threatened with beheading, but nobody in the Labour Party seems to be able to confront this problem. So will she call it out for what it is, sectarian politics that has no place in Britain?
Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not aware of what the Right Honourable Lady describes in terms of the particular case. What I can say is that violence, intimidation or harassment has no place in our politics. No political candidate or Member of Parliament should be subject to that kind of experience. What I can also say is I'm very much looking forward to going and campaigning and making the case to the people there.
We now come to questions to the Deputy Prime Minister. Annalise Midgley.
Question number one, please, Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've been asked to reply on behalf of the Prime Minister who's visiting China and Japan. Mr. Speaker, yesterday was Holocaust Memorial Day, and for the first time a Holocaust survivor, Marla Trivich, addressed Cabinet. I found her testimony profoundly moving, especially having recently visited the Badenoch concentration camp in Poland. We owe it to every survivor and to the 6 million Jewish people murdered in the Holocaust to never forget. We will build a national Holocaust Memorial and Learning Centre next to this Parliament so that the voices of survivors are never forgotten and their courage inspires future generations. Mr. Speaker, I know the thoughts of the whole House will also be with the family and loved ones of Captain Philip Gilbert Maldoni of the 4th Regiment Royal Artillery, who died on Sunday. We will never forget the courage, bravery and sacrifice made for our country by British servicemen and women. This morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to associate myself with the remarks of the Deputy Prime Minister on Holocaust Memorial Day and British servicemen. This week, the BBC and Good Morning Britain have reported of the national disgrace of out-of-control waste dumps, and for years My constituents in Kirby have lived with one. People struggle to breathe, they're sick, they have to live with their windows shut and schools sometimes shut down for days. I've been campaigning on it with our Labour councillors, but the response from the Environment Agency has been slow and ineffective. So will the government work with me to sort this nightmare and stop the Simmonswood stink?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I thank my honourable friend. The government will work with her. The situation she describes is unacceptable. People are right to be furious. The Environment Agency are taking action to prevent further dumping, and we're giving them more powers and resources to crack down on fly tipping. I'll make sure that ministers keep her updated of their efforts. And speaking of garbage, Mr. Speaker, I note Reform's spring cleaning of the party opposite is continuing this week. The leader of the opposition says the Conservative Party is full of unwanted rubbish. The public worked that out long ago and got rid of them, Mr. Speaker.
Shadow Secretary of State Andrew Griffiths.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I start by echoing the Deputy Prime Minister's comments about Holocaust Memorial Day? We must never forget. May I also associate this side of the House with the condolences expressed by the Deputy Prime Minister to the family of Captain Philip Gilbert Muldowney. I also offer the condolences of the House to the family of Lord Flight, one of my predecessors in Arundel and South Downs. He served in Parliament with distinction for more than 2 decades. Mr. Speaker, after the Chancellor's U-turn yesterday, can the Deputy Prime Minister confirm that over 90% of retail, hospitality and leisure businesses will get nothing?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, can I welcome the Shadow Business Secretary to the dispatch box and join him? I remember Lord Flight well when I arrived in this House. It's always a pleasure to hear from the co-author of the mini-budget. And the man who said that Liz Truss has the best plan to deliver for voters. Remember that? Of course, all of us want to see our pubs in good health and to support hospitality. That's why the Chancellor announced a £4 billion package of support. But yesterday, in addition, business rates for pubs and music venues will be cut by 15% this year and frozen for the next 2 years, and will review the methodology for valuing pubs in the future. I must say that contrasts with the party opposite, who of course saw 7
Mr. Speaker, he wants to talk about experience. I spent 25 years building businesses, creating jobs. He spent 25 years manufacturing grievance. And if the party opposite knew anything about business, they would know this is too little too late. Our high streets, their high streets, are bleeding out. The Chancellor's handing out. They don't want to hear this, Deputy Speaker. Our high streets are bleeding out, and the Chancellor's handing out a box of sticking plasters. They can't even U-turn properly. Mr. Deputy Speaker, a senior advisor... Mr. Speaker, a senior advisor to Andy Burnham said yesterday the Chancellor just wants a cheap headline. Meanwhile, our high streets are being decimated. He's right, isn't he?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I've got to say, Mr. Speaker, he talks about business. We know what his plan for business is. This is the man who opposed the minimum wage and said it was, quote, simply something that legislators pass to make themselves feel good. Well, let me tell him, Raising the minimum wage doesn't make us feel good. It changes lives, and Labour's proud of how we're supporting small business. And on small business, creating hospitality zones to cut red tape, greater licensing freedoms, very important, and tackling late payments. All of that supporting business. That's a hard cry to what small business saw before.
Mr. Speaker, you don't make young people better off by putting them out of work. Mr. Speaker, his MPs are already banned from pubs. Where next? Shops, restaurants, hair salons. That may not make a difference to him or I, but for many of them, they should back our plan to scrap business rates, but they haven't got the backbone to cut welfare to pay for it. And it's not just business rates, Mr. Speaker. Under them, the cost of hiring is up. So could he tell the House how much more does it cost to hire a 21-year-old under Labour?
Deputy Prime Minister.
He talks about young people. The party opposite left a shameful legacy. 1 in 8 young people not earning or learning when they left office. We're investing a record amount in apprenticeships, which they had on its knees. We're creating talented excellence technical colleges for our young people, and Alan Bilbert is doing a review on young people who are currently out of work. By contrast, they would freeze the minimum wage, oppose giving young people an increase. They've got nothing to say for the next generation.
Mr. Speaker, you can feel the Deputy Prime Minister's frustration. The Prime Minister's away, the Business Secretary is away, and here he is, left behind Lammy, the designated survivor, having to defend the indefensible. And it's very clear, he doesn't know the answer, Mr. Speaker. So let me tell him, the cost will be up £3,600 a year. Under Labour, businesses can't afford to hire. 1 in 6 young people can't find a job. This government is blocking people who just want to get on in life. People, Mr. Speaker, ambitious people like Andy from Manchester, having his dreams crushed by Labour. So could the Deputy Prime Minister explain why unemployment has gone up almost every month they've been in office?
Check his fact. 500,000 people in work more than a year ago under us. The Shadow Business Secretary is in no position to lecture anyone about U-turns, by the way. This man was Boris Johnson's net zero business champion. Now he opposes the renewable investment, creating jobs and opportunities right.
Andrew Griffiths.
Mr. Speaker, the thing he didn't want to say is that every Labour government leaves office with unemployment higher than when they arrived. And there's a reason for that. They don't understand what it takes to be an employer. They don't understand business. They're strangling business with their red tape, and they're about to make things infinitely worse. So will he tell us his government's own estimate of the cost to business of the Unemployment Act?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I'm going to take no lectures from you on business. My father was run out of business under the Thatcher government. I know what it's like to grow up under a Tory government. And whilst we're talking about it, 26 Tory MPs and counting have already defected to reform, and now they're all counting down, Mr. Speaker, because today is 100 days until the Tory transfer window slams shut. It's going to be the longest and most disloyal transfer saga since Sol Campbell left Spurs. I don't know where he is, has signed 3 white wingers in the past fortnight.
Andrew Griffiths.
Thank you. I don't know what's in his head, Mr. Speaker. It's our party that is getting stronger, and overnight, overnight, Mr. Speaker, we learned that the former Deputy Prime Minister has got 80 names. On Sunday, we learned that the Health Secretary's allies claimed that he's got 200 names, and oddly, 50 of them want the Mayor of Greater Manchester, who's not even in this MP. Mr. Speaker, they're supposed to be running the country, and once again, small businesses across this country will see that he didn't answer the question. So I'll tell him, £1 billion a year. That is the burden to businesses of their bill. So there we have it, Mr. Speaker. They've no answers for small business. There's no relief coming. They don't care about high streets. They don't care about hotels, restaurants, farmers, or young people. Won't the Deputy Prime Minister admit what the members behind him are thinking? That it's not the Prime Minister going to China that's the problem, it's the fear that he might come back.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, he's not going to get this gig again, is he? Let's face it. Mr. Speaker, I've set out our position very clearly. This was the week when the leader of the opposition told Desert Island Disc that Britain needs to learn to queue again. And Tory MPs have taken her quite literally. Outside the member for Clacton's office, while they squabble about the damage that they did to
that it's not the Prime Minister going to China that's the problem, it's the fear that he might come back.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, he's not going to get this gig again, is he? Let's face it. Mr. Speaker, I've set out our position very clearly. This was the week when the leader of the opposition told Desert Island Disc that Britain needs to learn to queue again. And Tory MPs have taken her quite literally. They're lining up outside the member for Clacton's office while they squabble about the damage that they did to our country. Labour this week is capping ground rents, cutting the cost of living and rebuilding our public services. That's the difference a Labour government makes, and there's much more to come.
Mr. Speaker, Elmore Hall School is a fantastic multi-site provision supporting over 200 of County Durham's vulnerable young people with social, emotional and mental health difficulties. Their PAC site in Durham caters for 20 key Stage 4 pupils, but SAN provision in Durham is at crisis point. With an extra school site and PAC extension, Elmore could offer more young people opportunities to thrive locally, saving thousands in costs for alternative provision and taxis. Will the Deputy Prime Minister arrange for the DFE Minister to visit the PAC site, and will they work with me to support the urgent need for additional school facilities and PAC accommodation so young people in Durham can access the education they deserve closer to home?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, I'm very grateful to my honourable friend. We're focused on fixing the SEN system so every child, wherever they live, has the support that they need to thrive. And we will continue our national conversation on reforms. We're also boosting investment into SEN. That includes £200 million to roll out more training for teachers and over £100 million for Durham County Council. I'm sure a minister would be happy to meet with my honourable friend and visit the site at the earliest opportunity.
Deputy Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Daisy Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of my party, may I join with the Deputy Prime Minister in marking Holocaust Memorial Day, We Will Not Forget, and also honouring the service of Captain Philip Gilbert Muldowney, who died on Sunday. Mr. Speaker, whilst the Chinese regime still holds British citizen Jimmy Lai captive in prison, and whilst the Chinese regime continues to hunt down pro-democracy protesters on the streets of Britain with bounties on their heads, the British Prime Minister has gone cap in hand to China to ask for a trade deal on the promise of a super embassy from which the Chinese regime will continue to spy on us. The Chinese regime remains undeterred in its illegal actions against the UK and our citizens. So can I ask the Deputy Prime Minister to name one single consequence that the Chinese regime will face if they do not stop their campaign of espionage and repression?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, China matters, and ignoring them would be a dereliction of duty. We will build a consistent, long-term and strategic approach grounded in reality. I set that out in the China audit statement I made a few months ago, and that is what our allies do. President Trump, Macron, Chancellor Merz, Prime Minister Carney, all are visiting and engaging. We'll cooperate where we can, and I'm sure in areas like climate, she would expect us to cooperate, and we will challenge in areas where we disagree. That's the way that we deliver for the public of this country.
Daisy Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I note the Deputy Prime Minister could not name one single consequence if the Chinese do not stop their espionage and repression. Mr. Speaker,
Withdraw.
Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Prime Minister has responded as if the world has not changed. With Russia waging war in Europe, with the Chinese hunting protesters and pro-democracy protesters on our streets, and with President Trump undermining NATO and the rules-based order which keeps us safe, we have got to act with urgency to strengthen our alliances with trusted allies in Europe and the Commonwealth, and we have got to ramp up defence spending now. Can I ask the Deputy Prime Minister, will he consider as a first step the Liberal Democrat plan to issue defence bonds to raise £20 billion in the next 2 years in order that we can rebuild our armed forces and give British savers the opportunity to invest in the defence of our nation?
The Prime Minister.
I've got to say, I've been here long enough to remember when Labour left office, 2.5% we were spending on defence, and when they were in government with them, they cut it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Deputy Prime Minister agree with me that the good work of this Labour government to get the NHS back on its feet, with waiting lists down, including by 2,400 in my constituency, ambulance waits down, and prescription charges frozen, would be put at risk, could be put at risk by Reform UK, as confirmed at the weekend, when the last but one defector, the honourable member for Romford, when asked about a private health insurance system, said, "I don't object to that."
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, he's right. Waiting lists are down 3,200 in his local area, and he's right to highlight the progress with our plan to get the NHS back on its feet. Thanks to this Labour government decisions, waiting lists have fallen by over 300,000 since the election, and we delivered 5.2 million extra appointments, slashed ambulance response times, and recruited 3,000 more GPs. Meanwhile, the member for Romford confirmed at the weekend that Reform would support privatising the National Health Service. Labour will never let it happen. Trusted with our National Health Service.
Mr. Speaker, this week marks 2 years from the attempted great deception of the former government and the DUP that the Irish Sea border was gone. No checks, no paperwork was the strapline. And yet within the first few months of this new year alone, we've had imposed a veterinary medicine border, and we've had a ban on new GB cars being sold in Northern Ireland. And now the EU says that from July it plans to impose a €3 charge on small parcels coming into Northern Ireland. What sort of government allows a foreign power to impose a tax on parcels coming into its own territory?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I looked at this specifically when I was Foreign Secretary. We provided a wide range of guidance and support to businesses. We've not seen evidence of significant disruption to the flow of parcels. However, of course, HMRC stands ready to provide support wherever businesses have difficulties.
Alex Boriscott.
Mr. Speaker. When the Prime Minister recently visited my constituency of Cardiff West in Ely to launch the UK child poverty strategy, I took the opportunity to discuss with him that much-needed Pride in Place funding that we want in Ely and Keir. My constituents are telling me they want it in important things such as a youth zone and in recreational sports activities. So will my right honourable friend agree to meet with me to discuss securing this vital funding for my constituents in Ely and Keir?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, of course, I'll ensure that my honourable friend gets the meeting with the appropriate minister. Look at the difference that Labour is making in Wales. NHS waiting lists have fallen 6 months in a row thanks to the largest ever devolution settlement. 445 million into Welsh Rail, new offshore wind projects, AI growth zones and the UK's small modular reactor in Anglesey. That's the difference a Labour government makes.
Richard Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Met Office reports that climate change is driving wetter winters. Yet the US withdrew from the Paris Climate Agreement yesterday on the same day that much of the West Country disappeared under flood water. My part of Devon is submerged and needs better flood defences. Would the Deputy Prime Minister like to invite his US counterpart on a fishing trip to the southwest?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, I'll get a licence if I do, but my sympathies are with these constituents affected by the recent floods. We're investing a record £10.5 billion into flood defences to protect 890,000 homes. The flood defences are inherited, of course, from the party opposite, which was shameful. But we've committed to net zero and the Paris Agreement. It's good for lowering bills, good for jobs and investment in the UK.
Elsie Blundell.
In my borough, the social housing waiting list exceeds 7,000 live applications. Council housing offers my constituents the safety and security that they deserve. What further steps can the government take to speed up the delivery of the social and affordable homes programme and build the high-quality social housing my constituents deserve?
Prime Minister.
She's absolutely right. We believe in council housing on this side of the House. We're investing £39 billion to deliver the biggest boost to social and affordable housing in a generation, and that will deliver 300,000 social and affordable homes with at least a 60% rate, and will bring forward legislation to strengthen councils' ability to buy back homes sold under the Right to Buy scheme.
The Scottish press is full of stories about the plot by Scottish Labour MPs to bring down the Prime Minister. One Scottish Labour MP said he's terrible. Another Scottish Labour MP said the handling of the budget had been incompetent. And yet another Scottish Labour MP predicted that Scottish Labour would be slaughtered in May's election. They're not wrong, are they, Deputy Prime Minister?
Deputy Prime Minister.
The people of Scotland have a big decision later on this year. Certainly not to vote Conservative, to get rid of SNP and vote Labour. And I and my colleagues will be campaigning every single day to bring that about.
Vicky Bolscroft.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the UK's first borough sanctuary, Lewisham has a proud history of welcoming people fleeing conflict, persecution and instability. Our council works closely with support organisations to help those people integrate and contribute to our community. So how will the Deputy Prime Minister ensure that proposed reforms to the asylum system support rather than undermine the positive outcomes already being achieved in boroughs like mine?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, I'm grateful to my honourable friend for raising this issue. Britain has always been a fair, tolerant and compassionate country that has offered safe haven to those fleeing peril, and this government will always defend those values. We're introducing the largest overhaul of asylum policy in modern times to restore control, contribution and fairness. That includes creating new, capped, safe and legal routes for refugees. Asylum claims are falling across Europe, but in Britain they are rising. So we must make it less attractive for those who are coming here illegally to come to Britain and easier to remove them, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Mr.
Speaker, 6 in 10 families say their pay is going backwards, with the lowest earners £73 a week worse off, and middle earners are worse off too. So will the Deputy Prime Minister admit that his government, this government, has broken its promise to improve living standards?
Yeah. Deputy Prime Minister.
Real wages have risen nearly every single month since we came into office.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Sergeant Matthew Telford, Trooper Robert Pearson and Guardsman James Jimmy Major, aged just 18, 3 heroic servicemen from Great Grimsby and Cleethorpes who made the ultimate sacrifice on their tours of Afghanistan. I want to put on record my condemnation of President Trump's plain wrong comments that so undermine the commitment of our brave British servicemen and women at home and abroad, which the Deputy Prime Minister has rightly recognised. This government has launched the Valour system to ensure that our veterans' support offer on housing, health, welfare and work is fit for purpose, fully backing our forces. That's in stark contrast to the leader of Reform, who happily takes cash to champion the IRA.
Shame.
My local armed forces charities want to know if he can set out how urgent action is being taken to house homeless veterans by this government under Valour.
Deputy Prime Minister.
One of the greatest privileges of my life is visiting our servicemen and women who are stationed abroad. We're renewing the contract with our veterans, providing millions to eradicate veteran homelessness and investing £50 million into a nationwide network of support centres. I also want to take this opportunity to pay my respects to Private Jonathan Kitulongoda. He was the first British soldier killed by enemy action in Afghanistan on this day in 2004. He was just 23. The valour and heroism of those who have served our country to keep us safe must never be forgotten.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A month ago today, protests erupted across Iran. In response, the Iranian government launched a deadly crackdown. They fired indiscriminately on protesters and they shut off internet access to hide what they were doing from the outside world. In April 2024, the then Shadow Home Secretary, now the Foreign Secretary, asked the Conservative government if they would finally proscribe the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organisation. And just 2 weeks ago, she described the Iranian regime as a consistent threat to the UK's stability, security, freedom and our national interest. The world order that we thought we knew is being shaken up. The US is no longer able to show moral leadership to governments that kill their own citizens. Can this government step up and take the lead, and will they now proscribe the IRGC?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, I utterly condemn the Iranian regime's brutal repression of peaceful protesters. It's a long-standing position under successive governments not to comment on whether a specific organisation is being considered for proscription. We have long criticised Iran's authoritarian regime and taken robust action to protect UK interests from Iranian state threats, and that includes over 220 sanctions on Iran, placing the entirety of the Iranian state on the enhanced tier of the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme. We're working at pace, of course, to explore what further measures can be taken to respond to these horrific.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, violence is again escalating in north-east Syria, in Rojava, with humanitarian crisis unfolding, and the city of Kobani under siege yet again. The Kurdish communities who fought and helped defeat ISIS now feel abandoned by their Western allies. Will the Deputy Prime Minister commit to working with our allies to hold the Syrian regime to the March 2025 agreement by securing protection for Kurdish civilians, pushing for a meaningful immediate ceasefire, opening humanitarian corridors into Kobani, and supporting constitutional recognition for Kurdish region?
Prime Minister.
Well, recent events in Syria have been deeply concerning. This is a significant moment for Syria's future, and we're using every diplomatic lever to urge all parties to stop the violence, protect civilians, and ensure humanitarian support can be accessed. The Foreign Secretary has highlighted the importance of protecting the rights of the Kurdish community to Syrian's Foreign Minister this week, and we have consistently advocated for an inclusive political transition. We remain committed to standing with the Syrian people as they seek to build a more stable, free and prosperous future.
Lee Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was reported on the TV yesterday that the Labour backbenchers are revolting. Now that is a matter of opinion.
You don't have a TV licence.
Unlike the Labour backbenchers and the Prime Minister.
You don't have a TV licence, please.
Unlike the Labour backbenchers and the Prime Minister.
He doesn't have a TV licence. I mean, keep going. Where's your TV licence?
Hi.
Well, order. I didn't want to have to get up. One of us is going to sit down. It's not going to be me. Who was the person that was speaking out then? If you haven't got the guts to admit to shouting somebody down, leave the chamber. Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unlike the Prime Minister of our country, I've never been thrown out or barred from a pub, and after yesterday's disastrous announcement to save our pubs, there's no wonder it's cleared off to China. But I've got one question for the Deputy Prime Minister. Will he come with me to Ashfield to visit some pubs and speak to some landlords and explain to them why over 500 pubs have closed since this Labour government came into power, and why another 500 pubs will close in the next year? Come on, be a man.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think I once campaigned with the honourable gentleman who was a member of the Labour Party. And it's been said of him that when he left, he enhanced the IQ of the Labour Party and the IQ of the party that he went to. I wonder what job the honourable member is pitching for on Reform's shadow cabinet. They've got Nadine Zahawi to advise on tax, the member for Newark to open up the borders. Now they need Liz Truss to crash the economy.
Ian Byrne.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I hope you get well soon. Lydia Jakeman is 19 years of age and has been given a devastating diagnosis of motor neurone disease. When she was told she has a very rare form of the disease that can be treated with a groundbreaking new drug called tofersen, her family were given hope. They have since discovered that while the drug has been made available to the NHS free of charge, a local trust has declined to deliver it. This afternoon, a family will be arriving at Downing Street, having walked from Southampton to highlight this injustice. Will the Deputy Prime Minister work with me, MPs from across the House, the Department of Health and Social Care Ministers, as well as NHS bosses, to deliver fair access to tofersen for all living with this rare form of motor neurone disease?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, can I say to my honourable friend that I'm sorry to hear about those that are waiting for this treatment, and of course I will ensure that he gets the appropriate meeting with the relevant minister.
James Badenoch.
GR Car is a business in Burnt Mills in my constituency in Basildon, with over half a century of experience in steel manufacturing and fabrication. It is exactly the kind of medium-sized business that builds this country and we should be championing. Following my visit to them last week, I was disturbed to find out that many of our contracts from our flagship deals in Teesside and in our nuclear programmes go offshore, such as the 7,000-tonne order for steel to China and the 200-plus kilometres of fabricated pipework to Germany. This is exactly the kind of investment that should be done in the UK. So how does sending it offshore play into their growth plans?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, the honourable gentleman will remember that we stepped in to save British Steel and we committed up to £2.5 billion to rebuild the sector, and we'll publish a steel strategy setting out how we're going to achieve that shortly. The British industry supercharger will also bring down energy costs for strategically important UK industries.
Patricia Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. At a time when this government is promoting a duty of candour to ensure all public servants, including ministers, should have a legal duty to act with transparency and frankness, and when the Scottish Government has indicated it hopes that legislation will apply there too, does the Deputy Prime Minister support calls for the current First Minister, a former First Minister and a former Health Minister to appear before the inquiry into the deaths of adults and children as a result of contaminated water at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Glasgow? A scandal widely thought to be the worst since devolution began.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, my honourable friend is right to raise this serious matter. It's a scandal, one of the worst failures in modern Scottish public life. The SNP government must acknowledge the grave failures at Queen Elizabeth Hospital. When whistleblowers raised serious failings, SNP ministers sided with the Health Board and dismissed families who went through tragic circumstances. That should be condemned as wholly unacceptable, and there's no clear example of why Scotland needs change with Anna Sarwar.
The UK's nuclear deterrent has kept this country safe for over 5 decades, and as the Deputy Prime Minister will know, it's operationally independent, but it still relies on US defence supply chains. Given the shaking of traditional alliances, could the Deputy Prime Minister reassure the House and the country that the UK has sufficient stockpiles of the component parts of the D5 Triton II missiles that the nuclear submarines have, and ensure that the supply chain remains resilient and is able to cope with any change in the White House, whether positive or negative?
Deputy Prime Minister.
He raises an important issue, and it's why I was pleased to work with the Defence Secretary on the Strategic Defence Review, and that we're investing £270 billion over this Parliament into defence.
Alex Shelby.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I know that the Deputy Prime Minister takes a deep interest in Uganda. 2 weeks ago, there was a sham election. People prevented from voting. Government officials stuffed the ballot boxes. Now the military is pursuing Bobi Wine, the leader of the opposition, with deadly intent. I'm gravely concerned about Bobi, opposition activists and British citizens in Uganda. What can we do to safeguard those people and ensure that we don't see violence and bloodshed on the streets of Uganda?
Deputy Prime.
Well, I was very grateful to meet with Bobi Wine and him when I was Shadow Foreign Secretary. We call for peaceful and credible elections. This dispute must be resolved peacefully and legally. Opposition candidates must be able to campaign freely. And of course, we will continue to make representations forcefully.
Bob Blackman, final question.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I join the Deputy Prime Minister in commemorating Holocaust Memorial Day. But unbelievably, Palestinian Pulse, an organisation, plan a protest outside Parliament today entitled "Confront Power in Parliament, an anti-Zionist rally." Now, the Jewish population of our country have had to put up with weekly protests in our towns and cities since the 7th of October 2023. Now we have Jewish businesses and restaurants having protests outside, trying to close them down. The chants are anti-Semitic. The meaning behind them is anti-Semitic.
Well said, please.
And we see where it leads. The massacre on Bondi Beach. What happened in the United States, and unbelievably, 2 of our Jewish population being murdered in Manchester. Now, Lord Macdonald's review is going to obviously look at this. But the Jewish population of this country do not have 2 years to wait before this hatred is extinguished. So will the Deputy Prime Minister take concrete steps to ensure that anti-Semitism is driven out of our country?
Prime Minister.
Well, I'm very grateful to the honourable gentleman. He and I have worked cross-party on these issues over many years, particularly as I represent Stamford Hill, one of the historic homes of the Jewish community, and he's quite right. The rising anti-Semitism that we see, the nature of some forms of protest is intolerable and unacceptable. That is why the Home Secretary has set out the plans that she has, and I will continue to work with her closely to drive anti-Semitism out of this country.
That completes Deputy Prime questions. Let the front benches change over. Presentation of bills. Peter Bedford.
Local Government Reorganisation Requirement for Referendum Bill.
Second reading what day?
Friday the 27th of February.
Friday the 27th of February. Thank you. Right, we now come to the next presentation of bills. Joyce Babaranda. Hello, Joyce.
Armed Forces Compensation Scheme and War Pension Scheme Report Bill.
Second reading what day?
Friday the 27th of February.
Friday the 27th of February. Well. We now come to the 10-minute rule motion. It's about flooding from George Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move leave be given to bring in a bill to make provision about the responsibilities and duties of certain authorities and agencies in respect of inland flood prevention, to make provision about the powers of local flood authorities and internal drainage boards, to require the Secretary of State to report to Parliament on the funding of LFAs and